Well, we've got a new episode of the Money Talk podcast out, and we're tackling an important topic, caring for aging parents. Host Kim Parlee spoke with Laura Tamblyn Watts, CEO of senior advocacy organization CanAge, and author of the book, Let's Talk About Aging Parents, a real-life guide to solving problems with 27 essential conversations. They discussed a lot, including how to recognize when your aging parent might need some extra support. Have a listen.
You've got some signs here, very explicit ones, on how you know that something more is needed.
Again, let's start with what is the problem you're trying to solve for. It may all end up with coming to something like a retirement home or a senior's living home, but let's be intentional in what we're trying to solve for. If it's loneliness, you're going to be seeing that a person maybe hasn't had any conversations. Maybe they're talking to people on the phone a lot that they shouldn't be talking to, i.e. scam artists really understand that older people sometimes are alone with no one to talk to. If they're starting to not go out and see people anymore, maybe there's an incontinence issue, maybe it's a driving issue, but really what you're saying is they're alone, and that's the problem we're trying to solve for. So we should look for them changing some of those things that were important to them and withdrawing. That is a big red flag on that. The next red flag on it is when the house you can't keep it up. You just can't keep it up. Now, again, what's the problem you're trying to solve for? If you want to stay in the house, maybe you have a Golden Girl style, which is a big trend people are doing. Maybe you have a student move into your house. They call it the Canada Home Share Program. There's different ways of thinking about that. Same with paying bills. If they can't afford to stay in their own house, maybe there's ways of getting that problem to solve for. If you are starting to see, however, that they are falling and very confused, and particularly those two things together, those are your cues that you're down a path that you really need to take quite seriously. And that often ends up with more support. And people say, well, I'm just going to get more home care. Well, great. Most people don't realize it costs about $300,000 a year in an urban center to have 24/7 care. And that's just with like a personal support worker, not a nurse or a doctor.
Right. So that's, something we have to kind of layer into this, where often is actually one of the first things people think about is what can I afford? What makes sense? What resources are available to you?
And there's often a lot of resources. Again, asking the problem, what are we trying to solve for? Many community-based services will help in some of those things that medical home care don't help. You know what? It's the snow shoveling that's a big problem. I can't get out of the house because I can't shovel the snow. Well, actually, there's tons of local programs that will help you do that. Some even just the neighbors can give you a hand. Lots of community-based services can assist, and we often don't think about that, particularly when, retirement homes are really expensive. And in some jurisdictions like Ontario, there's no coverage for them. In other jurisdictions like BC, there can be some coverage if on a needs-to-pay basis, but you need to have a conversation with your financial advisor about what is the actual cost, not of dying, we're better with wills. What's the cost of the last 5 years of life?
Yeah. You talk about as well, when you mentioned the signs, I wanted to explicitly say a few because I think they're useful for people to evaluate when they're working with their parents. You said, you're not getting around. That's a bit of a problem. You mentioned the snow shoveling, but also things look wrong, maybe in the house. Things smell wrong. Or
smell wrong is a big one.
Yeah, and stuff isn't working. So the smell piece, that could be the fridge to other things, right?
The toilet's not working. Don't use that toilet. I'm using the other one. Oh, I don't use the shower anymore. I'm using a bath. And you're thinking the bath is kind of dangerous, right? Oh, I'm just eating sandwiches now. These are often things because you're not connecting in your mind about how the problem is presenting itself, my toilet isn't working, with how you might go about fixing it. I might call a plumber. I might, unplug it myself. Or I don't have a sense about the cost. And so you just start going around problems. And the more you do that, you can really get a red flag. I always say, offer to make a cup of tea or, get a drink for them from the fridge. Get into the fridge. Is there anything in the fridge? Or is there lots of food that's unopened? Right? These are some of the issues that you should be starting to pay attention to.
Okay. So let's say, I'm going to use a close friend I know who's going through something themselves where they've identified there is a problem and now they're trying to actually, do the work to try and figure out how to help. The conversations aren't going really well, and these are, often, and same with my parents and I'm sure yours and others, these are independent individuals who have built lives for themselves, sometimes very successful, and it's embarrassing. So how do you start to kind of work your way in and build the trust to do more?
In the book, I literally have scripts, right? If your dad is super proud and stubborn, try this script. If your mother is evasive and doesn't want to confront and is constantly redirecting, try this version. And there's often an option that's called like the nuclear option. And sometimes, everything else isn't working and you really do have to kind of lay it on the line. We try to preserve those for the last. Ask yourself, what have they always been like, and are they different now, right? So if your dad was always forgetful, is he forgetful in a different way? If your mother was always evasive, is she evasive in a different way? And that's important to remember because we become more versions of ourselves. Think about what is the lever that works with them. So, lever that works with my mother? Shh, Mom, don't watch. Guilt. I could say things like, I know, Mom, I know you're probably fine, but, I'm always worried if you fall, or, I know that you don't need those external handrails outside the house with the slippery ice. I know that, but, your friends, they're getting older. My mom is 88. Friends are getting older. It would be nice if they could get in, or maybe we could do a ramp, like one of those removable ramps. I'm sure you're fine, but your friends could then come. And right now it's embarrassing that they can't come to their house, right? Mm-hmm. It's all true. I'm not lying to them, but it's also a lever in.
You can find the full conversation and all of our other episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.